Just two other options as far as sets and reps are concerned that I will sometimes include in my workouts, just to change things up a little bit, create a little bit more fun, but they also have some good data behind them. My first and favorite kind of weird one to use is what's called cluster sets. And what you're doing is a few mini sets within one giant set. So for instance, let's just say you're doing a set of 6 reps. If you're doing cluster sets, you can do a set of 2, rest 30 seconds, do another set of 2, rest 30 seconds, and then do a final set of 2. So you're doing 6 total reps, but it's like 3 mini sets of 2 within that entire set of 6. And a really good reason to use these is by using those mini breaks, those 30-second-ish, 15 to 30, sometimes a little bit longer, using those those rest breaks in between will allow you to lift a heavier weight than you otherwise could. So, excuse me. So for instance, if you were trying to do 6 reps with your 6RM, it'd be really hard. But you could do 6 reps with your 6RM if you did those little cluster sets. Or you could do something like using your 4RM or 5RM and doing sets of 6 with that as well, because now you're getting that break where you can lift a little bit more weight for a few more reps. So this is a really good way to really overload people. I wouldn't use it all the time, but it does have some really good results, and it helps people it'll help them get through plateaus. It'll help them train a little bit differently. And again, novel stimulus really helps people progress in their strength training. The other one that I like to use, this is really just for fun, are drop sets. And drop sets are just really something I'll use typically on back exercises, sometimes on chest exercises, but typically more isolation exercises like bicep curls or tricep extensions or lateral raises. Also, again, I like it on back exercises because they can really help get a bit of a pump. And for me, and I know some people really enjoy like when their back actually gets a little sore. And if you're unfamiliar, drop sets are where you do a set, you drop the weight, hence drop set. You drop the weight, do as many as you can, drop the weight, do as many as you can. You can do that 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 times. I wouldn't go too crazy with it, but it can be a fun stimulus. You know, instead of just doing like a typical AMRAP set, you can do an AMRAP with the drop set. So it's basically an AMRAP. You're just dropping the weight as it gets too hard. So those are just 2 different ways you can play around with programming. Again, cluster sets I'd use sparingly, really only with main lifts, and drop sets I use sparingly, really only with mostly isolation exercises. Just to give some different ideas about how to use cluster sets, because they can be really powerful and they can be a really fun way to train. I default to just using a heavier rep max for a given number of reps. So for instance, you can use your 8 rep max to get 10 reps. And the way to do that would be to do 5 reps for the first set, rest, 3 reps for the second set, rest, and then two reps for that final set to get 10 total reps. So again, you're overloading there. So it's not something you want to use all the time, something to use sparingly, but it is a really good way to keep progressing. Another good example, just go the opposite end of the spectrum, is just do singles. So like 90-ish% of your max, and you can get 3 total reps with that, 3 to 4 total reps with that. So again, do 1 rep, rest, another rep, rest, and so on. So these are just some really good ways to use clusters. Again, it's really fun, but it is a bit overwhelming. So not something you want to keep doing all the time, because it can help, or it can start to fry someone's nervous system.
For like the cluster set, using that for the main lifts, I like that. I loved those when I got hit those in the programming. It was kind of a breath of fresh air, and it's a good way to get the win for somebody who's like delving into that new side of things. If it's new for them, but even if they're experienced, it's a great way to get a win with a heavier weight than what you thought. Like when I was struggling with the 85s and just trying to breach that gap into 90s, 95s, that gave me so much confidence. And then like within a month, I was grabbing the hundos, and it was like, fuck yeah, this is great. So I really like the cluster sets.
This is good. I'm going to put this on social media.